Let's see if this is working. Yeah, I think this is working. If you guys can hear me, just say something in the chat, please. I think we're good. All right. Oh, so let's see if I can just get the. Can I? Yeah, I'll do, I guess I'll just start. Let me just give me a second, guys. Let me just retweet something really quick, and we'll go straight into it. Okay. All right. So thank you so much for joining, everybody. See a couple of you guys, Larry, Michael. Thank you so much for joining, guys. Yeah, there's lots of things to talk about today. I want to start with the Crispr Therapeutics data that we just actually got additional data for CTX 130, which is not what I was planning to talk about today, but I can definitely override it. But this is obviously about CTX 110, CTX 001, which is basically formerly known as CTX 001, and today it is known as Hexacell, right? This is the new program, hexagamglogene autotem cells, right? Hexagamglogene, short for Hexacell. I actually dig that name, Hexacell. It's not that bad, actually. Okay, so guys, if you have any questions, just let me know in the chat box. Obviously, this is live. I have this chat box on the right side of me, and I'm looking at the left screen. And if you guys have any questions, just give me a moment to read the question. And of course, this is like any other live streams that we've done in the past. I'll just go over some of the topics. If you guys have any questions, go ahead. Any sort of question, right? It doesn't even have to be about genomics. Of course, I'll try my best to answer those questions. Hopefully, you guys are having a beautiful Sunday here. It is 9:40. This is my first cup of coffee, which is a bit crazy, you know, when you think about it. Because I can even feel like my muscles here, my face muscles, because I just woke up like less than like an hour ago, right? My face muscle is still like stiff a little bit. I think people don't know this, but when you wake up, your whole like facial muscle is like different, right? They're all like sore and they take time. That's why my early videos, I've done videos like in the early morning, and I watched those videos back, and it's really interesting how, you know, my face is like developed differently as opposed to like maybe throughout the day, right? It's just food for thought, right? But anyways, okay, so let's jump straight into the data, right? So just as a reminder, Hex Viva is, of course, an ex vivo approach to things. It is using CRISPR-Cas9, quote unquote, the first generation of CRISPR, but we'll be seeing shortly why the first generation of CRISPR may also be the best generation of CRISPR when it comes to data, right? Especially on humans, right? Because that's what matters, right? Obviously, this is a little bit of a recap of what the whole procedure is. You know, we're talking about the BCL11A gene, you know, and then, you know, we're reducing that expression, right, through a specific mechanism. And that, of course, it leads to an increase of HbF levels in specific cells, right? So the goal here is to improve your HbF cells, right? So levels, because if you can increase that, and basically you can tackle two type of diseases right now that CTX110001 or hexacell is addressing: sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia, right? So those are two diseases that are sort of tackled in this one program, which I find amazing. And of course, this is due to low levels of HbF, right? And if you can increase those levels, then you can basically potentially cure. You can't say physically, technically cure until it's FDA approved. But anyways. So so this is, they call it like TAL 111, SCD 120. I think it's more like an internal reference at this point. I've never called them like that. I just say hexacell for sickle cell disease, or hexacell for beta thalassemia, right? So they're giving a little bit of design information here. What is important now is that we've gone now to an end sample that is above 75 as of February 2022. Right, so this is a huge sample, guys. This is no joke. We're not just talking about like 6 patients here with like few months of data. Clearly, we have a lot of patients with a lot of months of data, and you combine them all together, the FDA is going to have a hard time denying this type of procedure for FDA approval, in my opinion. But who knows, right? So they're going over some of the median information. Again, if you guys are curious about this data, you can always just open this PowerPoint presentation that I'll probably link in the description. Find it in Crispr Therapeutics investor press releases, presentations. But this is type of information that was already presented in the past. So nothing crazy, nothing too revolutionary here. I think the interesting part becomes when, and I feel like they put a lot of emphasis on VOC free, right? So what are VOCs, right? VOCs are extremely expensive. They're not sustainable. This is something you have to do on a continuous basis. You have to basically go and get transfusions, basically to the hospital, to whatever clinical setting you're on, and it's just not sustainable for these patients, right? Clearly, you can see here, if you take a look at it here, months after hexacell infusion. So again, this is a single dose lifetime treatment from Crispr Therapeutics partnership with Vertex hexacell program, and you can see on the x-axis you have the number of months, and then on the y-axis you have the number of patients, right? So 31 of 31 patients were VOC free after hexacell infusion, right? So that's just amazing, right? Basically, you're getting the best of both worlds, right? All of your patients are getting VOC free, and then your patients themselves are now VOC free, right? So then I'll have to go to, the hospital and get a VOC. That's expensive. That's a lot of time. Takes a lot of time. Now, when I use the word expensive, I do want to make sure we're on the same page. This is more in the U.S. and in specific places where some of these coverages are not covered. Of course, if you have private insurance, if you're living in a country where healthcare is quote-unquote free, things may not be as expensive as you may think, but clearly here this is an issue in many regions, and because our channel is a lot focused on American companies, and myself, I'm very deep into the American economy. I'm tempted to say it is expensive because it is, right? But obviously this is subjective based on your region where you're located at, and of course, that type of thing varies, right, on your income levels and so on. But still, in a grand scheme of things, it is expensive. Something like that should not be expensive, in my opinion. Whether or not there is a cost to that, that's another topic, maybe for another day, right? So, patients with beta thalassemia had an early increase in HbF that drive increase in total HB hemoglobin above the transfusion threshold, right? So you can see different colors here. The most important color, I think, is more in the dark blue shade here. And clearly here you can see after the base level was clearly low, and after the first month of infusion, after a couple of weeks, days even, you see, and then months, you see this thing is just shooting up. And after there's one specific sample here, one specific patient, like we saw previously in the previous slide, that has gone beyond the 27th mark, and at 26, they're still above that range, that acceptable range, I would say. I'm not 100% sure about this trend line, this red trend line here, but from what I'm told is if you have above like 20% of HbF, you should be in a position to sort of treat this, right? And clearly here you can see when we put the percentage beside this graph, things are looking really, really, really good, right? So that's amazing, right? That is definitely amazing. 41% is amazing. That's an amazing. Like I said, 20% is sort of the sweet spot there to sort of have a successful go at it to tackle sickle cell disease or beta thalassemia. That's just amazing, right? So obviously here you see over time for all of the patients sort of stayed remain, and we have many reasons to believe that all these patients N20, N20, N31 as they grow over time, as the months expand, as time goes on, this line will stay at least flat or at least close to flat, and that is the goal. You don't want this line to go back down because that means that the F cell percentage is now decreasing. You definitely don't want that. You want it to stay constant as well as above that base level, well above that base level, right? Clearly it is doing for both programs in hexacell, which is that tau 111, and sickle cell disease 121, right? So a lot more data here talking about the difference, exposure, adverse effects here. A couple of patients that have some serious. There's one patient with sickle cell beta thalassemia that has serious adverse effect, but both serious adverse were resolved, right? So that's good news. Okay, so there was one that had three serious adverse effects. Doesn't look like they were fully resolved with steroid and immunosuppressant treatment, right? So maybe it's a good mention to make, when we talk about one-time treatment. I'm not saying literally just inject something or extract the cells, do the edits, reinsert them, and then just leave. There's lots of monitoring. There's lots of follow-ups. For any of these serious adverse effects have to be monitored, reported, and addressed ASAP by the clinical trial in play. We've seen that across other programs as well. So I'm not too surprised about this type of slide. It's part of the game. I mean, look, I'm not gonna go in this rabbit hole, but everyone went through the vaccines in the pandemic, right? And I had some serious side effect, and I know many others had some serious side effects. So I mean, it's part of the game. You're injecting something foreign into the body, and you're bound to have some sort of reaction. Plus, we only well, in this case we have 75 patients, but has the N sample increased now? I do believe the N samples now were resolved, right? 35. I don't believe this N sample will increase. If it does, it won't increase by more than like 90, like a total of 90, I think 35 if I remember. But so basically, this is all the set of data we have for FDA approval submission. So just as a reminder, guys, by the end of this year, CRISPR Therapeutics and Vertex have reiterated, both of them independently, each of them, that they will be submitting for FDA approval for hexacell, formerly known as CTX001, right? So you wanna make sure that you're aware of that, because that is definitely something that a lot of people are looking for, and it's something that is extremely interesting, because you have a program that's potentially to be FDA approved, and it's going to be the first in the CRISPR landscape that will be applying for FDA approval by the end of this year. There are no delays based on this slide that we're looking at, and the whole PowerPoint presentation, and everything we've heard about both companies independently in the last few months. I have many reasons to believe this FDA approval submission will happen. So the process is these companies will basically join in, submit a FDA approval document, and then basically go through the process of waiting, right? after a lot of wait. Couple of months from what I've seen, it's gonna take a lot. From what I've seen, I'm not 100% sure about this figure, but from what I've seen, it takes like 3 to 6 months. Potentially, if your best case scenario could take a lot longer, obviously, but 3 to 6 months that the FDA is gonna take a look at and basically say, okay, this data is good, this data is good. Maybe go with some questions and so on, but at the end, once they're all done, it will be FDA approved. So that's why we're sort of projected early 2023. I mean, the best case scenario would have been submit this type of document submission by the end of the summer so they can potentially get this out of the door for FDA approved by end of December, early December. But obviously that's not going to happen, I think, because they haven't really pushed anything. But who knows, who knows? No one knows. No one was told otherwise so far. So we'll see. I mean, I don't have inside information. I'm just literally just saying what I've been hearing in podcast episodes from Dr. Sam, CEO of Crispr Therapeutics, or just press releases from Crispr Therapeutics or Vertex, right? So yeah, so the conclusion, right? Let's take a look at a conclusion because this one is definitely important. Data from 75 patients with sickle cell disease, beta thalassemia, and severe sickle cell disease showed that a single dose of hexacel leads to early increase in F cells and total of HB that are durable up to 3 years, right? So again, they're saying that statement based on that patient they were able to track for that long time, but obviously we have yet to get data from the remaining patients that are still early, couple months in, but we have many reasons to believe that statement will hold. 42 of 44 patients with beta thalassemia stop transfusions, and all of 31 patients with severe sickle cell disease are free of VOCs, right? So all these transfusions, most of these patients now have stopped them completely, and all the participants in the sickle cell disease program have completely stopped VOCs, which are, as I mentioned, VOCs are expensive. They're really time consuming. They're not scalable. It's not available to the public. So on those two statements, you have a strong basis of FDA approved submission, right? Just on those two patients, right? So, but obviously it's not just that, right? For example, the safety profile, you need to make sure that it is consistent, right? So they had a couple of serious adverse effects, but most of them were treated. Some of them were done through a specific steroid, for example, but there was a way to basically eradicate those serious adverse effects. In patients with over a 1-year follow-up have stable proportions of BCL118 gene edited alleles in bones, marrow, and peripheral blood, indicating successful and durable editing of long-term HSCs, right? So durable editing, successful editing. This is what we're trying to get at, right? This is the purpose of this data, to see if you can increase F percentage over time, make it durable so that you don't have that significant drop over time close to the baseline level, and also make it safe and efficient as possible. And I strongly believe that hexacel has done all of those 3 points that I just mentioned. Hexacel has the potential to be the first CRISPR-Cas9 based therapy to provide a functional cure for patients with beta thalassemia and severe sickle cell disease. Treatment with hexacel is associated with early, consistent, durable increase in F levels, leading to elimination of transfusion in almost all patients with beta thalassemia, and elimination of VOCs in all patients of SCD, sickle cell disease, right? So this is basically their thesis here, and I think that's just amazing. I mean, people forget this, but Vertex paid a huge amount to Crispr Therapeutics last year, just a baby around the month of May of 2021, I believe. They paid a huge fee to basically own 20% more of the program, right? So basically they went from owning only 40% of hexacel to 60%. So they are now a majority owner between the two partnerships, with Crispr Therapeutics now owning only 40%. 40% is still big, right? But 60% is obviously more favorable. And that's the reason why Vertex, the big pharma company, Vertex, which have been firing from all cylinders, they now own 60% of Hexacell, right? So that's huge, guys. That's huge. That's no joke. I mean, they paid like over $1 billion for this. Over time, it was like over 2 billions, I believe. That's a lot of money for a program that has, using technology that's never been FDA approved, that we literally have no human data besides Editas, which was the first company, and they're sort of a mess right now. So there was a bold bet, but that's how you get innovation, right? That's how you get successful in life. I think you make bold bets. No one gets successful, whether that's with money, whether that's with fitness, whether that's with relationships. You all make bold bets. Maybe for you it's not considered as bold, but they are sort of bold, right? That's the whole point of taking risk in life. You want to put yourself in a position where you take bold, calculated risk, bold bets, so that you come out successful, right? This is sort of the idea of investing, right? I mean, you could just stay at home and just, rack in your paycheck and just save it in a 2%, 1%, even less than 2% at this point, like a less than 1% savings rate account. But you're going to lose that money through inflation. Time's going to go past, you're not going to do anything. And you're going to miss out on those opportunities, right? And you have to make bold bets and bold risk. And, part of us, talking about CRISPR companies, part of us talking about the space, part of us investing in these companies is because we are willing to take those bold bets, right? So I think that's really important, and people sort of underestimate that aspect of taking bold bets. And Vertex obviously did that with Hexacell, so that's amazing. So before I jump into the Twitter reaction, the social media reaction to this news, let's take a look at some questions. So Stephanie Turner joined. She said, do you think the price will soar on Monday? Yeah, I actually think the price will definitely soar on Monday. If we take a look at the stock price, just because we haven't really talked about the stock price so far, we just talked about literally the performance here and the science behind this company. You can see here in the last year, this thing just got hit so hard, guys. Like since June of 2021, which is basically a year ago, this thing is down 70%. If you scale it back to early of 2021, started making these videos just a little bit after that date. You can see this company's been down well over 75%. But it did have a little spike here with the rest of the market since May. I think at 64, and this company is worth like a sub $5 billion. It's literally racked in over $1 billion just last year through giving up 20% of just one program, and that can scale, right? Now they have the headcount, they have the talent, they have the knowledge, they have the confidence, they have the venture, they have the capital venture. Basically, they have the capital, right, to basically the resources to basically expand their portfolio. Now, obviously, CRISPR Therapeutics are going to have to do a lot more than just ex vivo CRISPR-Cas9. They're gonna have to venture into in vivo. They will have to potentially adopt some sort of technology that really puts away that first generation legacy template brand that they've sort of getting labeled at in the recent year. Although I think that's more of a narrative pushed by Beam Therapeutics fans. Look, I'm invested in Beam Therapeutics, but numbers don't lie, guys. Numbers don't lie, and the human data that they were able to get through this Hexacell program is just phenomenal, right? So to answer Turner's question, there will it jump? Who knows? Who knows? But I can assure you that it won't be down 11% like Friday. That was more of a macro environment / Caribou sort of stumbling with their data that I covered in the last video, and I thought it was completely overreaction from Wall Street, from MBAs. But I do expect the company stock to do really well based on this data. But again, I heard someone say, it was priced in. I disagree with that statement. I don't think it's priced in. I don't think right now it's priced. Nothing is priced in. I mean, things have been down like 75 to like 80%. How can you price in a potential spike, things that are like literally we're in the red blood market, right? It makes no sense to me saying that it's priced in. But anyways, I do think they're gonna jump. But like I mentioned, there's a lot more that this company has to do here, and there's a lot more work to do, and that's exactly why I'm excited for CRISPR Therapeutics, right? Being the leader of this space right now with data. Hey, Savvy Manisho. I think everything will go through a CRISPR company in the near future. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I think the biggest bull thesis is that the whole healthcare industry will shift towards CRISPR, or at least have some sort of affiliation with CRISPR. And I think that's actually already happening. I mean, you saw Moderna partner up with a CRISPR company, obviously not a public company. It was a private company that sort of had affiliation with their leaderships. You saw Pfizer obviously deal with Beam Therapeutics. You're seeing Vertex here. So I think the industry itself will all have some sort of relationship or affiliation with a CRISPR company. Now, whether or not CRISPR as a tool is the solution for literally everything, I don't think so. I think there's going to be a lot of applications where maybe CRISPR may not make sense in terms of scalability, in terms of cost, in terms of availability. I mean, we got to remember there's only a handful of programs running right now. I mean, Hexacell is one. You have Antelia 2001 from Antelia Therapeutics. You have Caribou Biosciences, CBO10. You have one of the programs from Aditas. You have Beam Therapeutics working on their program that have yet to dose anybody, that are still going through their, they got IND approved there to start their phase 1, but they sort of still waiting to dose anybody. You got Graphite Bio that's delaying things up. You have Vertex, Vert Therapeutics that I still don't know what they're doing. I mean, we all know the data. We all know the data they have on monkeys. But let's get human treated. Cardiovascular disease is literally the leading cause of death in America, in Canada, in many regions around the world. So to me, it makes no sense. I mean, and then you have CRISPR Therapeutics working on Hexacell, working on type 1 diabetes. They're working on so many other programs that I find very novel, right? And I'm actually curious to see the data for the diabetes program. I think that's going to be big from CRISPR Therapeutics. This is not priced in. I don't think this is priced in, but that's my opinion, right? But I think that's a good point, though. Like, I think the influence that CRISPR companies have grown since last year. Well, just if you think about it, when we started making these videos, like over a year and a half ago, almost, the Pfizer deal was not made. Moderna was never known to be in the CRISPR space. Vertex didn't own this much of the company's program, Hexacell. You didn't have this data. Caribou didn't have no data. Antelia didn't have no data. Aditas was still in a mess, and they're still in a mess. But that's the only constant, I think. But Graphite Bio, people had high hopes for. Verve Therapeutics, people had high hopes for. Beam Therapeutics, people haven't had high hopes for. So there's a couple of constants there, but I think in the grand scheme of things, lots of things have improved. And just imagine where we're going in the next year, right? So I think if there's one key takeaway here is where we're going for next year, right? So thanks for taking my question. I'm invested heavily in this stock. I appreciate your insight. Yeah, no problem, Turner. Thank you so much for joining in. Absolutely, I think a lot of people are invested heavily in CRISPR Therapeutics, NTLA, Beam Therapeutics, Caribou. Caribou is a little bit rare. I haven't really heard a lot of people invested big on Caribou, but I know there's a couple of bulls on Caribou, including me, right? So I think I'm one of the only handful covering this company, Caribou, in YouTube, let alone other social media platforms, and I'm definitely just a few covering CRISPR Therapeutics who were very, very early. But again, it really, really depends about a lot of factors. Unfortunately, the macros. This applies not just for biotech or genomics or CRISPR companies. This applies for tech companies. Just under my screen, you see Netflix here down in the past 6 months, 69%. I mean, this companies, there are companies that are down that have nothing to do with genomics, right? I think when we're in the space, we often think that everything revolve around that particular space. It's I think there's a bias for that in philosophy. I think it's the echo chamber or whatever. It's like whatever you think that the world revolves around that particular topic or that subject. The truth is, your space is so small, and Crispr space is so small. And there's so many other variables that would be affecting these types of price actions on these stocks. I mean, obviously there's the obvious, like Russia invasion to Ukraine. No one expected that, or at least the general masses did not. People that were involved in the space sort of were, but my point is that there's so many other factors involving the whole concept of inflation, Fed rates. You have unemployment, employment. You have obviously the pandemic. You have the whole issue with China. That we sort of quote unquote forgot about. It's like they took in the back seat now. You had it before that. You had a Huawei situation in Canada, for example. So there's a lot of macro environments that could cause these price actions, and I think if your long-term horizon, if your horizon is for long-term purposes, right? If your mindset is what's going to happen in the next, 4, 5, 7, 8 years, then your thesis plays out over time. Maybe not in a way you've imagined it, but I guarantee you, if you've done your research, if you build conviction, and if you sort of invested in put resources into companies that in your mind cannot go away in 3, 5, 7 years, then the likelihood for you coming out positive net in terms of money, in terms of resources, in terms of portfolio is very high, right? Again, it is a risk. It is a bold risk. It's like I mentioned previously, you don't get successful without taking a bold risk, but you must make calculated risk, right? It's not just about investing in the fancy stock. The companies like Robinhood, companies like Peloton, companies like some of these companies I don't think will survive in these markets. And I don't mean like bankruptcy. I mean like going back to their all-time highs anytime soon. Even once we're back in the bull market, I do suspect them to get out of this like 80 to 90% drop from their all-time highs. Obviously, I'm not expecting them to go and stay at those levels, because obviously it's all a demand versus supply thing, right? If more people want to buy your stock, your price stock goes up, assuming you don't dilute your stock. So just food for thought, right? So hey, Michael. Michael, Bluebird announced similar news for similar therapy, and the stock seems to have doubled in the aftermarket. We'll see Monday. And Bluebird's therapy seems to have far more significant off targets. Yeah, Bluebird but they also had like a huge drop. I remember last year. This was when I just stopped even thinking or talking about Bluebird, because I just knew they had an inferior technology. It's. I mean, look, I think the stock price is gonna move regardless of what you think, right? Whether it's up or down. Based on this data here, you would assume that it would go up, obviously. But we've seen, Caribou, when they released their data early May, they sort of, had a great price action there. So that was good. But I also remember when Crispr released, was it Antelia actually? It was Antelia with 2001. They've released the first time the additional set of data for the first time since June 2021. That was earlier this year, and the stock price barely moved. I think it was down like 1% after like a day. So, I mean, it's a hit or miss, right? I don't know. I don't do day trading, guys. I just invest long term. Obviously, I keep the price there in my mind, because it's fun, and two, it's obviously part of our portfolios. I'd be lying if I said I never look at stock price. I do look at the stock price, just like all of you guys. But I don't look at it in a way where, okay, it's going up 4%. Should I sell it? I don't do that, because if I did that, in the last month, basically, I'd be missing out on these gains, right? But you could make the argument that if I did that maybe early 2021, I would have saved a lot of headache, right? Because obviously a lot of us are in the red with this stock. Not all of us, but many of us are in the red. We know one player that's in the red, and that's ARK Invest, right? So, yeah, food for thought. Crispr Therapeutics seems higher. Yeah, Therapy, I think CRISPR is the way to go. Whether that's CRISPR-Cas9, Cas12, Cas14, Cas5, whatever Mammoth Biosciences are working on, or Prime Editors, or Prime from Prime Medicine, I think CRISPR is the way to go. The question now becomes, how do you capitalize on it? How do you commercialize it? What's the path towards it? How long FDA will take? We know there's something we didn't really talk about in a while on this channel, but the bill Cures 2.0 Act in US, right? It is a bipartisan bill that's literally meant to reduce delays, reduce costs, and ultimately have the FDA approve these drugs in a timely fashion, and basically accelerate things up, right? Accelerate innovation, accelerate growth, accelerate these companies working on these phenomenal experiments to basically potentially FDA approved, right? But we'll see where that goes, but that's definitely a catalyst you want to take a look at. So Savvy Money Show says genetic sell-offs is as if the whole sector was disproven when each company was shown so much growth, even governments promised reform. It will be cheaper for insurance company and governments to fund these companies. I believe we will see a lot of these acquisitions happen. That's a great point. That's a really, really great point. I actually 100% agree with that. Insurance companies and governments. I think for me, it's more the governments, because the government's mandate, or at least the mandate should be, I don't know if it's the case for many of the regions around the world, but the government's mandate should be to serve their population, right? That's the reason why they give these designations to like Hexacell in Europe, or in maybe, in Health Canada. In Canada, they give the priority to type 1 diabetes to CRISPR Therapeutics and Visight's program with their program to tackle type 1 diabetes. The reason why you give these designations, these priorities, is because you want to serve a segment of your population that's being underserved by public markets, for example, right? There's no companies in the space, and we know that the governments can't tackle this. You definitely want innovation. You definitely need capital, resource intense. How would you ever see a government spinning off a CRISPR program? It's not going to happen, right? It may happen in a research lab, but to commercialize it, which we didn't even talk about manufacturing facilities, but obviously CRISPR Therapeutics are big on that. We've seen statements from that. And of course, John Evans, CEO of Beam Therapeutics, have also said how their underrated aspect of the company is the manufacturing facilities. So governments are always going to fund these types of companies. Somehow, whether it's directly or indirectly, pass bills that basically reduce their costs and delays. And ultimately, these government officials are going to look at the space, the whole healthcare industry, and say, what are the technologies that are leading us to, lower the delays, lower the costs, and ultimately potentially cure our patients. And there are a lot of tools, right? It's not just CRISPR. There's obviously the mRNA technology that we've obviously seen play out in the last 2 years and a half. But CRISPR is definitely going to be up there, especially once there is a first FDA approved. You just cannot imagine a world without CRISPR. I can't imagine it, guys. I've tried to resonate myself. I try to reason myself out of this. I try to find all the reason why CRISPR may evaporate or may just be a fad, and it was maybe a byproduct of this whole bull market we had in the 2010s and mid 2010s. I just can't imagine it, right? So food for thought, right? So Michael said many of the genomics companies have significant short interest, 10 to 15% float. That is a knife that cuts both ways. Eventually that becomes a tailwind as shorts are tested with positive news flow. Yeah, I think there's a lot of shorts in this space, a lot of shorts. I've seen Twitter people on Twitter just bashing biotech, right? It's a bloodbath, right? And this is exactly what happens in a market crash. And I was in this spaces yesterday, on Twitter spaces. I want to talk about this because I didn't really voice it. I should have tweeted this or posted this somewhere or mentioned this in the video. But people are here's the thing. When there's a market crash, two things happen, right? First of all, your interest in the stock markets goes well below, right? You start like you start reasoning yourself, because I do it, and I know other people do it, right? Just based on the fact that I do it. So if I do it, then the likelihood of others are doing it are probably high as well. So what I'm saying is that I try to reason myself to why, stock markets, they're volatile, they're sort of manipulated with factors that we have zero control over, like Russia, like inflation, like Fed rates, and you may have a school shooting, which is horrible, horrific, and I don't even want to think about my stocks when I see those sorts of news. But the truth is, there's so many factors and world events that can cause your stocks to go down. And then you start reasoning yourself. And then what happened? The second thing that what happens on that line of thinking is you start listening to people to sort of validate what you're thinking already, right? This also happens in the bull market, right? But because we're in a bear market right now, what happens is everybody that says something that sort of resonates with what you're thinking on the spot, you're gonna either like their post, you're gonna retweet it, and you're gonna talk about it, right? So this is what I've seen. I was in this Bitcoin space, and people were saying all the reason why Bitcoin will go down, and the whole space is there's gonna be boomers are retiring, and the whole space is going down. There's a lot more blood that's gonna be coming out of these markets. And my point here, the reason why I'm bringing this up is, if you want to see reasons to, if you're in this space, what's gonna happen if you're gonna start listening to people that are basically validating what you're thinking, and that's just gonna amplify things. It's just gonna create an echo chamber, right? And I've seen that right now in this space. I'm seeing that in biotech a lot, and shorts are no different, right? You have a lot of these short sellers coming in. They're listening to people that are saying, yeah, there's a lot more blood to be had. And then, a day like Friday, like how we close with like some companies being down 6, 7, 8% in the Crispr space, 10, 11, 12%. Caribou being down obviously over 20%. You have this validation that happens, right? But that's where you have to be careful, right? Because we are in a bear market, and I truly believe we're gonna go in a couple of rough weeks and months. I don't think this is gonna go up like we saw, like a U shape in the pandemic. It's definitely not a U shape. I mean, this thing has been. I mean, if you guys think about it, like if you take just Crispr Therapeutics since last summer for over a year, this thing's been going down. So over a year is a long time. Okay, make no mistake. I talk about 3 to 5 years, but when your stock is being pummeled, a total of like 75 to 80% for many of these companies, even higher for some others, when the Nasdaq is down 40% of the Nasdaq companies are down over 50%. One, that's a market crash. 2, that is a bear market. And 3, you have to evaluate things on a long-term horizon at that point, right? There's no point of looking at a day-to-day action. But, who knows? No one has a crystal ball. And if anybody tells you they have a crystal ball, you should either stop listening to them, or you should do your own research and stop listening to maybe a specific person on YouTube or on Reddit or on Twitter, because that person is just literally saying what you're thinking, and they're trying to get your attention, right? Basically trying to clickbait, trying to get your eyeballs. I mean, legacy media does that all the time. They're like the masters of this. So it definitely did not start on Twitter or on Reddit or on YouTube. So Savvy Money says, if you're the parent of a kid with a lifelong condition and a cure comes out with a genetics company, they will mortgage the house over it. The cost governments, insurance companies are paying for that condition side effects. If you make the correction, provide a cure. Michael, exactly. Eventually, the short burn by being squeezed, right? Yeah. So shorts. I'm not gonna spend too much time on that, but obviously, we all know what short sellers do, what they can benefit from. I mean, there's a time and place for short sellers. Like whole Enron situation, yet an amazing story where shorts actually had a role to play. And as much as we can sort of say, no, we don't want shorts in genomics, you can't really say that, because then you'll be making an exception. And you can't say that, right? Free markets don't work like that, right? As much as you can bet on a company to go up, you should be in a position to bet when the company goes down, right? Instead of just talking crap on social media, you can actually put your money where your mouth is and sort of bet on the fact this company will go down, or at least this industry or this sector. So I truly think I truly believe that short selling should be legal. It should be available. Now, the only thing I think it's annoying, and the only thing a lot of people don't think it's annoying, is when you have these groups coming together and basically short selling, these institutions short selling, despite the fact that the technology is correct, the technology is good, the technology is here to stay. CRISPR companies are literally included here in what I'm saying here. I think it's a complete disservice for these short sellers to be short selling companies like Antelia, Crispr Therapeutics, Caribou Biosciences, because you have these companies working on programs that are literally going to cure patients, right? Potentially, right? And you're basically, what are you betting against? Like that's what I'm getting at. What are you betting against? You're betting against the fact that they will be unsuccessful at providing a one-time cure to people in your communities. And again, I don't want to get this across like it's a moral thing. Again, it is a moral thing, but and an ethics thing actually. But I don't want to do some moral pity here. But it is true, right? What are you short selling against? And this has to be something that you want to consider in your decisions, right? I think making money is one thing, but being morally ethic is another, right? So I don't think those are mutually. I don't think they're mutually exclusive, right? They should be, they should be something in your agenda, right? Whatever decision you do in life. So we have another question from Michael. Let me just get a sip. Hope you guys are enjoying your coffee. This is 10:24 a.m. Eastern. We're going for about 47 minutes now, so that's pretty fun. Hope you guys are enjoying coffee. I'll probably have to get a refill, to be honest, because I usually take a lot more than just one cup. Actually, I've been taking like 3 cups a day, which is a bit crazy. But anyways. What are your thoughts on base and prime editing versus Cas9 for long-term investment return? Is there a place for both, and will base and prime eventually win? Yeah, so there's a couple of notes there that we want to be mindful of, right? So first of all, I don't think it's as simple as saying that base editing and prime editing will replace CRISPR-Cas9, for example. I don't think these second generation companies and second generation tools of CRISPR will replace the first generation of companies in CRISPR landscape. So that's one thing, right? I don't think it's going to happen. I think this is going to be something, first of all, it's going to take a lot longer than people anticipated back early last year. I remember early last year people saying, yeah, CRISPR is doomed. CRISPR Therapeutics, of course, they're doomed. Beam Therapeutics is coming in hard. You had Verve Therapeutics coming, IPOing with, giving 50% of their licensing to base editing to, of course, Beam Therapeutics. And obviously, people were speculating. But clearly now, after seeing how things play out, people are under pressure now that, okay, yeah, maybe this won't be a couple months. Maybe this will take a lot more than just 1-2 years. Base editors are very far, guys. They're so far, right? This is not even... We're like, I don't even think we're going to be talking seriously about base editing with human data in the next 2 to 3 years, right? I think this is going to take a long time to play. I do think Beam 101 will be successful. All preclinical data shows it. It's the same way Chardonnay's rDNA technology showed it with Caribou, which is not a base editing. I strongly believe Beam Therapeutics will publish great, amazing data by the year 2024, 2025. But even if they do, that's one program, that's one disease they're tackling, or at least sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia. It's going to take a long time, and that is going to take a long time, guys. I mean, CRISPR Therapeutics has been with Hexacell for numerous of years now. You guys saw that first patient there getting data for over 3 years. I mean, this is going to take a long time, guys. This is going to take a long time. Make no mistake. I don't necessarily think that they're going to replace it. Now, if you want to capitalize on it, obviously, there's some companies tackling base editing, but besides Beam Therapeutics, which I think is an amazing play as well. NTLA obviously announced it, and they sort of submitted a patent. I don't know where they're at right now. There's the whole patent law issue they're going on. That's a good play for base editing. CRISPR Therapeutics have mentioned they have their own base editors, but again, it's I don't know, like it's hard because people treat this as like a tech world, right? Where you think the greatest technology will triumph, right? I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. Not in biotech. Not when you're testing with humans. I'd be reluctant to even use the word testing, right? You're not really testing, right? You're actually like literally trying to cure the patient, right? You're not testing. You're not breaking things. This is literally, you're literally playing with someone's life, right? Everything is documented. Everything is reported. Everything is looked at it microscopically, whether you're in preclinical with animals or whether you're with clinical trial with humans. Everything is documented, so you have little room of error. So to me, all those factors lead me to believe that CRISPR first gen is here to stay. It's going to be here to stay for a while. It's going to commercialize, make a lot of money. And then at that point, look, you let Beam Therapeutics, Verve Therapeutics, NTLA put in efforts and resources in base editing. And then, you either license it out or you come up with your own, just like same way Antelia is doing. And then you let the law, of course, play out for another like 5 to 8 years, like we're seeing right now going on with the Broad Institute and the West Coast there with Jennifer Doudna and her team. So I don't know. I mean, I think there is a time and place for base editors and for prime editors, which obviously is with Prime Medicine, which is still a private company. I'm just really excited for Mammoth Biosciences and Prime Editing, Prime Medicine, specifically for Mammoth, because I love the fact they're in diagnostics. Their CEO seems to be really, really level-headed, young, energetic. I think they're the other, I think one of the execs, they're Chan, the sister of that Olympian there for Americans. I think I really like their leadership, and they're doing a lot more than just editing. I've always said that these companies should do a lot more than just editing, right? But obviously they have to start somewhere. Same way that Tesla started with Roadster. You have to start somewhere, so right? So, hey Chris, thanks for joining. CRISPR is the best position because of their balance sheet. Longest cash runway with the potential of FDA approval next year. What is your opinion on NVT? It looks like they will need to raise cash in 2 years or less. Won't be profitable until 2025. So 2 points here. So yeah, CRISPR Therapeutics is definitely well positioned. Definitely well positioned. I think they have over $2.4 billion in cash. And that's right now, right? So who knows, like Vertex may literally approach CRISPR Therapeutics, says, you know what, we want to buy an additional 20%, and I'm going to give you another $1.5 billion. They may as well do that. And then you jump from $2.5 billion cash in the bank to basically $4 billion cash in the bank, which at that point becomes they're matching their market cap at that point, which in my opinion is mind-boggling, right? That's what's happening with Caribou Biosciences, by the way. Market cash versus cash in the balance sheet. I do 100% agree with your statement, Chris. CRISPR Therapeutics, in my opinion, is the well positioned for everything here because they have the cash, they have the headcount, they have the talent, they have all these amazing programs working parallel. We didn't even talk about CTX130 right now, but they got in data for today. So they have lots of cylinders firing for them. But despite everything working really well for them, you have all these people that are, saying, where's base editing? Where's in vivo? Where's, these partnerships? And I actually agreed that partnership point because it was sort of a huge blow that, Pfizer and Moderna didn't end up going with a company like CRISPR Therapeutics because CRISPR Therapeutics has the data. They have human data. They've dosed over 120 patients across all their programs. At this point, I think it's clearly, at 150, I think they own like 180% of the market shares of all CRISPR therapy-based patients around the world. So if you take all the programs, you sum up all the patients, Hexacell program, CTX130 program, Antelia 2000 program from Antelia, Caribou program, Editas, I think CRISPR Therapeutics actually own around 80% of that market share, which to me is mind-boggling, right? So they're definitely well positioned. In my opinion on NVT, yeah, I think this is this is a tough one because I read something recently that says that they're in debt and they're bleeding money like crazy. I think this is one of those companies that you want to take a look at really, really carefully because and you want to be careful, because if you just look at a stock price, this thing looks extremely, extremely interesting. But being down 96%, that's just crazy, guys. This thing is worth $500 million. But this one is a tough one. This one is a really, really tough one. Yeah, this one is a tough one because I've covered this company in the past. I love what they're trying to achieve. I love what they're doing with genetics and making it available to mass wide. They're like those 5 verticals they're trying to tackle. I forgot the name, but like pregnancy being one of them, depression, mental health being another. And clearly is a biotech company, clearly is a genomics company. But clearly they've been, hit so hard by this market crash. It's a bit, it's a bit crazy they've been down this much. I'll be honest with you guys. It's just crazy how SoftBank invested in this company literally around its peak, right? So the biggest loser here is SoftBank, right? Which I think a lot of you guys, I don't know if you guys watch a TV show for WeWork on HBO or Showtime, whatever. It's an amazing show. You guys should definitely watch it. Hi there, when can you invite? Yeah, invite, like I said, I think there's gonna be some losers in this market, and I think Invite is definitely a loser. Invite is one, BNGO is one, Teladoc was another one. I mean, you had uh, Ginkgo Bioworks was another one. But again, what does it mean to be a loser, right? All it means is you get a stock price that's down 70, 80, 90%. But then again, CRISPR Therapeutics has been down 75%. Caribou Bioscience has been down well over 80%. I mean, all these companies are down very, very hard, right? So whether you're down 75% or 85%, at that point, you're still a loser, right? But at the same time, like I mentioned, this is a byproduct of macros environment, right? There's so many other variables that have nothing to do with science, nothing to do with CRISPR, but have everything to do with these company stocks, right? So Russia invasion, inflation, Fed rates, government interventions, delays, data from one company in a different, using different technology affecting other companies in the genome editing space. It's part of the game, right? Hey Blair Watson, thank you so much for joining. Hey Hassan, thanks for the great videos I have week after week. I really enjoyed it. I saw you posted a video on Caribou results. Haven't seen it yet. Do you think the drop was a huge over exaggeration? I thought it was a very still positive presentation. Yeah, so again, thank you so much for joining Blades, and thank you so much for the compliment. I do these videos for you guys, so literally I just spin off my webcam, I put in my microphone here and just start talking, right? And it's absolutely an enjoyable experience for me because one, I get to learn about these companies a lot more. The best way to learn about things is to teach it. Of course, I spend a lot of time watching videos, reviewing articles, and then trying to translate that information to simple words, simple terms, because I've been told by a long time ago by someone that if you can't explain something, in simple manner, then the chances are you don't actually understand that topic. Actually, that was Einstein that actually said that. But anyways, the point is that, I do this out of passion, and it's been an absolutely amazing experience. And the crazy thing is I've been doing this literally in a bear market. So just think about what's going to happen in the bull market. Things are going to go just bonkers, right? So about the Caribou video from yesterday, I highly advise you to watch it because not because I want your view specifically just for that reason, but more because I actually go over the presentation. I go over each of the patients because the key is, when you're looking at data, you want to look at how each patient's acted, how each patient's data came in, right? You don't want to look at percentage for 6 people or 5 people specifically for a month, 6 months, because what does it mean 5 people? I mean, you can't look at 40% of 5 people. That's 2 out of 5, right? You want to look at each patient, how they reacted. And to answer your question, I definitely think it's an overreaction. I think people are just finding reasons to, like I said, to believe what they're already believing. They're finding reason to explain this market crash. This market crash is not explained by having, a 100% complete response rate and then dropping to 40% response rate after 6 months. That doesn't explain it, right? What's happening right now is a lot of variables that are causing this market crash. But specifically about the data itself, Caribou, in my opinion, is still on dose level 1, and they have, in my opinion, again, the best data for CAR T cells program, right? For all these companies, we took a look at that comparison with Crispr Therapeutics, with Gene, and their companies being a lot further in the space there with different dose levels. Crispr Therapeutics, Caribou is gonna pump their dose level from 40 to 80, so basically doubling their dosage level. And we still have yet to see the data. Imagine if it gets way better than 40% complete response rate. I think it's just gonna mind boggle people. I think they have the best data right now with level 1 dose. And we have yet to see what's going to happen with dose level 2, which they're expecting now to move towards for phase 1. So, in my opinion, it was a great data, overreacted for sure. I'm just going to get another cup of coffee, guys. Just give me another 10 seconds. Just make a quick time check, make sure everything's working fine. Yeah. So, this is my second cup. Usually I take my third cup by this time, but because I'm speaking to you guys, things are going to take a lot longer, right? And I love coffee. This is crazy. Like I'm pretty sure all of you love coffee at this point, or at least most of you. But when I was in Portugal almost a month ago, I was so surprised how they weren't giving these coffee cups, which is crazy, right? When you think about it, they were getting this espresso sauce, and honestly, they're good quality. I'm not saying they're bad. This really good espresso sauce, it's really good. Your little cups, it's great. But me developing this habit for over a decade, just having like this big coffee cup, plus the fact that I fast, I need that coffee, right? I need that coffee cup. I need at least more than once, right? I need like 2-3 cups. And if you give me a little shot like that, yeah, it may be as strong, but it's not replacing that full cup of coffee that I just enjoy, right? So I don't know, that really was surprising to me. That was surprising. I don't know if you guys have the same opinion as me, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe because I was talking to this one of my brothers, and he told me real coffee is over there. That little espresso shot, it's amazing, and I agree. It's amazing. By all means, it's really amazing. But it's not replacing what I sort of do on a single basis. So I guess that's part of traveling, right? That's part of learning and developing new ways to looking at things. But I definitely need one of my coffee cups. Let's go. Let's keep going, right? By the way, this is amazing. There's so many of you. Last time we did a live stream, we had lots of chats too, but now we're getting a lot more chats. So thank you so much, guys, for participating. This is amazing. I mean, making videos on a webcam, turning on, recording, stopping recording. That's fun. That's a lot of fun. I see your comments in the section. I try to read them and respond to every single of those. But this is just on a different level, right? Live conversation is just huge. It's just huge, guys. That's just amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so Chris P says, do you think the patent issues will affect Crispr or Antelia? According to Jennifer Downer, it won't, but I think it could be an issue. Yeah, so I went over those videos. If you guys remember, like 2 months ago or whatever, when this things got heated up because there was a verdict that basically favored the MIT/Broad Institute. and I covered that, and I said a lot of those things. I said it to you guys, that I think there's a lot of things that we don't know. I think this thing is going to play out for a lot longer. There's going to be an appeal for it. I'm a little bit annoyed by when you see Antelia CEO basically said this won't affect us at all. Yet they have CRISPR-Cas9 in their programs. Same thing for Caribou. Rachel CEO said that this won't affect them at all, but CBO10 has CRISPR-Cas9, but they won't affect them at all. I mean, it's just like I feel like it's and CRISPR Therapeutics CEO said the same thing, by the way. Dr. Sam said the same thing along those lines. So the way I see things is, look, of course it's going to affect them. It's the whole West versus East battle. If you guys read the Walter Isaacson books on genome editing and Jennifer Doudna, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a whole East versus West. This is going to go a long time. Of course, it's going to affect these companies. But I think ultimately they're going to come to an agreement. After all these lawyer fees, after all these course battles and all these delays, as people get a lot older, you get new, fresh talent in the space grows, you start commercializing things. I think there's going to be a way out. Who knows what's going to be the verdict at the end. But I do think there's going to be an agreement. That's where I stand. But I do think it will affect every single company in this space, including the companies like Beam Therapeutics. I truly believe it, right? So, Paulo Fernandez. Any opinion on Illuminate? Yeah, Illuminate, my only opinion here is, I know they're going through a heavy court battle right now. I remember there was this podcast episode with Tim Ferriss, and there's this guy, Dr. Atia, I think. Dr. Atia, yeah, this guy that is big on longevity, age longevity, living longer, something like that. And I think he brought up that issue with Illumina trying to acquire this company, and like the FDA, the SEC, or whoever, I don't know which regulatory body is like meddling in. And I think I read like last night there was some court battles going on, very extensive one. So that's going to be really crazy. And Illumina is one of those huge companies sequencing. And actually, this may be a good time to talk about how, as you get bigger as a company, I think you get so many roadblocks that the incumbents no longer are favorable, right? Because new companies, the smaller companies coming in the space like BNGO, obviously try and tackle completely different things than what Illumina is doing. My point is that as you get so big, there's a point that you get so big that whatever you try to do is so slower, because you're imagining this company that grew in the last 5 years to now grow in the next 5 years in a similar trajectory. But because they've grown so much, there's so many roadblocks, so many bureaucrats involved in this, and things slow down. And I think the whole court battle is exactly what's going on. It's literally just explaining what I've been saying. Is that when you get so big, I think, especially as a company that's been there for a while, what happens is new players, newcomers come into the space and start dominating. And by the time you're done with these court battles, we saw with Microsoft in the late 90s with Netscape and all that good stuff with browsers. We saw Google come in, we saw Apple take back the reins, we saw Microsoft fall back in the 2000s, and just saw other stories like that, right? So legacy autos with Tesla, right? So we've seen all these stories happen over time, and I think Illumina, unfortunately, is one of those type of companies that I think, in my opinion, will face all these court battles, legal battles, and then you'll have these players coming up in valuation. I think it's a great company, don't get me wrong, but those are my thoughts. Maybe I'll make a video at some point. Yeah, I just didn't get a chance yesterday. Yeah, no, it's fine. What I find amazing about YouTube is the on-demand aspect, right? The fact that you could just basically watch a video whenever you want. So if you can't watch my videos on a daily basis, that's fine. I mean, I'm not gonna hold you to it, right? But you literally, like on a Saturday night or Sunday evening, you can just like shoot up the YouTube and start looking at your subscribed accounts videos, right? Whether that's company stocks, whether that's different topics, totally like travel or TV shows or whatnot. So movie critics. So there's I honestly, guys, I love the idea of going with doing on demand videos, right? And I also love live streams. It's amazing, guys. Let me see if I can just do a little thing here, guys. Just give me a second. Quick time check, and also let's look at what else I can do here. Okay. All right. So let's see here. What else do we have, guys? What else do we got? You also have to consider if it was worse stages anyone else is doing better. You have to consider if it was worse than everyone. Yeah, okay. Yeah, actually, this is a good point, right? You want to see how's this landscape looking like. You want to make sure that companies, it's one thing to say that CRISPR Therapeutics is down 75, 80%. Because of macros, and it's another thing to say that it's down 75% literally due to like Beam Therapeutics coming in with amazing data on human, right? That's not the case. Right now it's the former, right? The markets are down, there's so many variables. People are trying to complex it a lot more than what it is. I mean, this is very straightforward, right? Markets are down because you have Fed rates, inflation, you have Russia invasion, you have gas prices going up, you have people uncertainty. You have a huge bull market that happened since 2020 that is now obviously coming down very hard in the last 6 to 8 months. And it's going to keep going down for a couple of months, in my opinion. So we're cleaning the bear market. I'm from Portugal, some 5-6 espressos a day. Oh, hey, yeah, Paula, I remember you told me this actually in one of our videos. Yeah, man, Portugal was amazing. It was an amazing space. It was an amazing country. People are so nice. I mean, I was talking about this to my brother yesterday and to my family. Is that being in North America, being born and raised here, basically, you get to see the people how they treat you. And when I went to Portugal, whether that was in Lisbon or Porto, more specifically Porto, actually. And I wasn't, yeah, of course I was in touristic areas, but I'm talking more like local type of restaurants. The people were so nice. I mean, the people, I really think there's something to be said here. I think when you spend, it's one thing to, to make money. It's another thing to like treat people with dignity and respect. And again, I think those are mutually exclusive. They should be mutually exclusive, right? You shouldn't be, and I think in North America, what's happened is we sort of, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm totally wrong, maybe this is just my own lens, it's my own experience in life. I feel like we've sort of separated, both of them. We're like putting capitalism in one bucket, and then we're putting like humans and respect and community and love and freedom and all those values and beliefs in another bucket. And we're sort of able to separate them. From Monday to Friday, we're all about work, and then weekends we spend time with family, friends, and so on. So I don't know. I think it's a hard thing to do because you can't have it all in your, and you can't mix both buckets, especially when you're trying to achieve great things like Canadians. A lot of Canadian companies are, or Americans, obviously. You need to have that relentless focus and so on. But then you go to a place like Portugal, Lisbon, or Porto, where people, they work hard. I truly believe they work very, very hard. But they have amazing hearts, amazing, the way they treated me, and the conversation I had with a couple of Portuguese, that was amazing. This is great experiences. There was this lady that we were taking like this Airbnb experience from, like cooking class, and she was telling us stories and just giving us a lot of respect. It was fun. And, I think it goes both ways. As much as you're expecting them to respect you, you have to obviously respect them first, right? Or vice versa, right? I don't know how that works, but that was definitely it. But yeah, man, the espressos a day. I mean, I took 1 espresso, 2 espresso a day. it's because it's not about the energy, right? For me, it's more the habit of drinking a cup of coffee, just like what we're doing here, like coffee and Crispr. Maybe we should rename this channel Coffee and Crispr. I thought about this, but I don't know. But I definitely want to go back to Portugal at some point. This was my question from one of my siblings. They said, would you want to go back? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I want to go back. But just like everything in life, there's a lot of other resources that I want to put into time and resources. And there's a lot of places as well, like Greece, that I'm going to be going in the month of July, potentially, in Greece. So that's another topic maybe for another day. But yeah. Hey, thanks so much, Savvy Money, for subscribing. Seen you in the channel, seen you comment. Thank you so much, man. Cross-licensing deal, absolutely. Cross-licensing deal will happen with the patent situation. I truly think it's going to happen. I don't think it's just going to keep going courts. Because you got to remember, there's a lot of money that's being bleeded, right? Both sides are bleeding money, right? And money is definitely the driver factor here. Dr. Sam said, if any of these therapies get FDA approval, it would capitulate the company to 100 billion market cap. He also said, is the company becoming a trillion market? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Is Dr. Sam being overly optimistic? If he is 110 correct, this would mean investment of lifetime. So first of all, a couple of points. Dr. Sam actually last year, when the company was worth like $9 billion market cap, he sort of expected that by the end of 2021, this company, Crispr Therapeutics, will be worth $25 billion market cap. If you guys remember this, look at the transcript, you'll see something. He didn't say it like that way, but he definitely said 25 billion, and he said by the end of the year or by next year. So clearly that has not happened. That's one thing. Second thing, I would say that Dr. Sam is definitely someone who's optimistic. I've seen him speak, and I've seen him explain certain things that I think he's really optimistic about. But I think he makes a good point. I think if this thing can get FDA approved, whether that's Hexacell, right? Let's go back to the Hexacell. If Hexacell can be approved based on the data we got, there are many reasons for us to believe that this company can be worth 25 billion, can be worth 100 billion, can be worth 1 trillion. But obviously, to get to that point, you can't just be working on Hexacell, especially the fact you only now own 40%. You're going to need type 1 diabetes. You're going to need some in vivo programs. You're going to need some other diseases to be tackling, right? All these diseases in CRISPR Therapeutics portfolio, whether that's CAR T cells that they're tackling with 110, 120, 130, they're going to have to spin off those programs and get them successful and accelerate their growth, right? To get to $100 billion market cap. And to get to $1 trillion market cap, I think the whole space has to explode, right? I mean, ARK Invest did talk about how the space in the next 5 years, in their Big Ideas 2022 report, they're projecting that in 2025, or I guess in 5 years, 2026, 2027, whatever the year frame was, they're projecting the whole genome editing space to be $1.1 trillion market cap. So if you take all the companies involved in genome editing, you can get a market cap of $1.1 billion. And I'm assuming they excluded like pharma companies like Pfizer, which are involved in CRISPR now at this point. But Pfizer and Vertex, I think they're just not Vertex, maybe you want to include them, but you want to include really like genome editing companies. And we truly believe that over 90% of those genome editing companies will be involved heavily with CRISPR. And based on those calculations, the company that's leading the whole CRISPR space should and will be worth at least 10% of that $1.1 trillion market cap by 2026. And by that definition alone, that's over $100 billion market cap. So there's a path, right? There's a path. And that's Dr. Sam saying that. I just talked to you about ARK Invest, which is an independent entity. They're saying that. So keep that in mind. And I'm the one suspecting that it'll be worth 10%. Because, I can't see the dominant player in a field owning less than 10% of the market cap. I don't see it. Like Amazon owns well above 10% of e-commerce. Square, in my opinion, Square definitely owns more than 10% of the fintech commerce. Obviously, there's different sectors, different companies, different competition there, but food for thought. Pablo said, and eat while I leave the door. You open, security is top. Yes, I was never threatened at all. I mean, there was nothing there actually. There was nothing there that I was felt threatened of. There was nothing there. Beautiful place, man. Lisbon was really nice. Lisbon was really nice, but I just adored Porto. The way I see it is Lisbon is more of like partying for going out and but there's obviously a lot of museums which we went. It was amazing, those churches, this history, that castle on the mountain, like in the city. We were there. We were having the view of the city. It was like cloudy / sunny a little bit afterwards. It was an amazing view in Lisbon. But Porto was very beautiful, obviously a lot smaller, but not that small. People were saying it was small, but it's not that small. I mean, it is obviously smaller, but it's not that small. It's quite a very dense population, lots of people living, lots of energy. What I was surprised, I'll be honest with you, the thing that surprised me the most about Porto was, and Lisbon, or Portugal as a whole, is that I saw a lot of expats, right? A lot of people living there, that clearly are not Portuguese, or at least natively Portuguese. Maybe they're not considered Portuguese, but I'm talking about like British. I'm talking about Canadians. I'm talking about Americans. I'm talking about French, Germans, Europeans, basically moving to Portugal for work. I did not expect that big South Asian community as well in Lisbon. That was also a shocker for me. So I love that. I love that diversity. It's diverse population. Like I said, beautiful, beautiful cities. Both of the cities we visited, technology was there. Every company was accepting, some sort of credit card payment through your app or Apple Pay, for example, which is a big thing, right? It's not. I didn't even pay cash. I didn't even convert cash, Canadian to euros, and euros is obviously very, very. It got hit hard, obviously, because the Russian, so Canadian dollars worth a lot more now. So that obviously is to my advantage. So amazing time, man. Portugal was amazing. I went obviously with my partner, significant other. We had an amazing time, both in Lisbon and Porto. Food was amazing. That was cod was amazing. Bass fish was amazing. The rice and all the good stuff. That was amazing. There's nothing. Honestly, it was such a great trip, and it didn't cost that much. Actually, it didn't cost that much. And I'm just gonna say one more point before I start talking about this, because I mentioned this to my siblings yesterday. So obviously, the people who live in Portugal know Portugal. Obviously, you guys know the flaws and so on. But the people that have never been to Portugal, I think there's like this weird concept image that Portugal is like one of the poorest countries in Europe, and it's not one of the most cleanest place or maybe safest place in Portugal, in Europe. And I don't really care about statistics, right? I'm just looking at being there, living there for over a week. I mean, it's still not that long time, but you can sort of get a feeling. I've been to Brazil, I've been to Rio, I've been to different places, and I can tell you, Portugal was very safe. It was not poor at all. I don't know what people are saying when they're saying poor. Lisbon, the places were clean, great service. I love the fact there was no tipping. I hate tipping. I hate that industry that we've built in North America. I hate the fact that we have to tip for a below average service, and we still have to tip because we feel bad. So in Portugal, we were not tipping. We were getting best service. People were so nice. And I'm not just talking about one or two people. Every single interaction we had. And they were speaking English. They were speaking French, which I obviously speak both of it. So that's amazing. So honestly, beautiful country, beautiful place. Highly recommend anybody that's never been to Europe to at least try out Portugal. And if you've been to Europe and you've never been to Portugal, for a number of reasons, let me just tell you, the cost there, like if you're coming as an American or Canadian, you're going to love it, right? Because you're going to pay just as much for you could go from like Montreal to Toronto. And if you end up going to hotels and going to restaurants, and not cheap restaurants, you can pay just as much, if not more, for that trip I did to Portugal. And that tells you a lot. That tells you a lot, right? For, in 1 week from one city to another within your own country, you're paying a lot more than in a week in another country with a different culture, with better service, in my opinion, better food. I don't think it's comparable. I think I had such a great time, guys. Like, it was just an amazing time. It came out refreshed. Anyways, I'll stop talking about this because I think people are getting bored with my travel stories. Wow, it's 11 a.m. Okay. Are you in any testing company like Antelia? It has P3, got FDA approved for liver disease test, made its money in COVID, but keeps smashing earnings. So I am not in any testing companies involved. Like, the only testing diagnostics company that I'm really following is Mammal Biosciences, and that's a private company. But Savvy, I love the fact that you're bringing up the PE ratio being 3. They got FDA approved for liver disease test. That's definitely a company I think our viewers want to take a look at, FLGT. So let's take a look at it since you're bringing it up, and it piqued my interest. Fulgent Genetics, right, worth $1.5 billion market cap. Let's take a look. Got hit hard early 2021, just like most companies. But not that bad, actually, over less than 70% compared to like 80, 85, or even 95% in the case of Invitae. That's not bad. Let's take a look at the cash flow here. So that's some good. That's some good cash flow. 500 million. That's some pretty good cash flow. So that's a good company. And they're burning how much? They're burning. Okay, yeah. That's not that bad. That's not bad. Operating expense, yeah. That's a pretty good balance sheet. They have good cash for another like 3 to 4 years. That's a good company, man. Might look into it, man. Thanks for the suggesting. Citi gave Caribou a $39 target. Wow. Do you give any price target like this and consider it on your investment decisions? The quick answer is no, Chris. I don't look at. I know a lot of people in the Tesla space do that. Like, they see like Morgan Stanley or fucking like Goldman Sachs like gave like $1,000 price target for Tesla and blah blah blah. I don't look at price targets. I never looked at price target. I think it's a nice thing to talk about. Maybe I look at science. I think in the genomics CRISPR space, you want to look at data. You want to look at science. And to me, data, science, I value that a lot more than the opinions of MBAs and of business side and tools, especially on Wall Street. They have nothing. They have nothing to teach me about this company. And I'm not trying to be ignorant or so on. It's that they're not in a position to even talk about CRISPR the way we talk about it, the way we develop it, right? The whole purpose of this channel was literally because of that, right? Because I felt like people were not covering the space to its fullest. I mean, you had CRISPR Tommy doing his work, but one person is not enough. You need different individuals, different perspectives, and then you need different set of experiences, right? I had that experience with the tech stocks, with being a software engineer myself, having that experience. I sort of translate that experience in the genomics world. In my opinion, there's a path to translate that, right? And I think, in my opinion, it's been successful for me. But obviously, we're still in a bear market, so in terms of financial gains, we'll be seeing that a lot more in the long term. But I don't see price targets. I think it's amazing they put $39. Citi, I didn't know that. That's an amazing fact. But that's where I would leave it off to. I don't spend too much time on there. The only price targets that I take a look at is from ARK Invest, and that's only because I know they've done their homework. I know they've run their simulation models and so on. Despite the general mass opinion on ARK Invest these days, I do value their metrics. Paulo said, my salary month is 750 euros, and I have 2 homes, a car, some stocks, some silver. Nice. Love your videos. Yeah, man. I think, thank you so much for the compliment, Paulo. Like I said, I don't understand the whole thing with like poor, like, it's not a poor place. It's a beautiful place. It's of course, if you're going to the rough spots of the city, in Lisbon or maybe in the country, of course you're gonna see some poverty. But that's about everywhere though. Like in Canada, you have some rough spots in Montreal. You have some rough spots in Toronto. You had some rough spots in LA, in US. You have some. I've been in the rough spots in LA, and trust me, I felt really, really bad for what I saw. Right, in Chicago, I saw it. In New York City, I saw it. In Miami, I saw it. In Austin, Texas, I saw a little bit of it. So it's everywhere, right? So Chris says, I would assume City did their due diligence. Maybe not. I think they did the due diligence. I'm not saying that they're not like. I think, yeah. I don't think I should be shooting them down. I'm just saying that because I've seen targets change like over like 3-4 months, and I don't understand how they went from like putting a price target in this company, like in this case 39, maybe next by the end of the summer they'll drop it to like 34. Like, how did they come up with those values? They talk about their models and so on, but I don't know, man. I have a hard time believing that they have the analysts, because these companies have like obviously a huge organization with many analysts, but a lot of them are under pressure to deliver results, and ultimately they want to do that for their clientele. So they have vested interests, right? I mean, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that they have a vested interest to sort of talk about a particular stock or a particular sector for their clientele that's piquing interest for a specific company or specific stocks or specific sector, right? So I don't know. Honestly, I'm not a big fan, but I'm not saying they're not doing homework. I know they work really hard. These reports sometimes they go very extensive, and there's some Citi. I think Citi would definitely have a great report on it. I definitely check it out when I do have time. But that's a good point, Chris. Thank you so much for that, Chris. I find simply Wall Street and other analysts give terrible prep because they don't understand this company. They are either thousands of dollars or $10. I've traveled the world everywhere as good. Yeah. So yeah, like a Savvy Money show just said, guys, I've been burned by these Wall Street analysts so many times. I can't. Like, I'm not saying they're all like that, but I don't know, man. That when you're in the space for a long time, you sort of I don't know. You start losing trust on certain institutions like Wall Street analysts. Like, they don't know what they're talking about. They're just gonna pump whatever's trending. We saw it with GameStop. We saw it with AMC. We saw it with Tesla. So I don't know. The time will come where these companies, CRISPR companies, will be pumped by Wall Street. The time will come, guys. The time will come, and you guys don't want to miss that rise, because that's gonna be a wild rise, wild ride. Save money. Sure, I've traveled the world, and everywhere has good parts and bad parts. Yeah, absolutely, man. This, like you said, Savvy, you've traveled the world. You know exactly what I mean when I say there's good and bad parts. And I think it just depends. It just depends, I think the problem, honestly, there's so many variables. There's so many variables here, but one big variable, common point I always get from people that sort of talk down on some of the countries, is legacy media. Legacy media, all they want is your eyeballs and your clickbaits, right? So they're always going to try to populate whatever is like the most flashy news, right? They're going to talk about Pakistan, the prime minister being ousted, right? And it is true, he got ousted, but they're going to focus on that news line as if it defines the country. But the country isn't. Just like every other country, it has different regions, it has different communities, have beautiful things and bad things. Same thing with Portugal. People will talk about the poverty maybe compared to the rest of the Europe, but then there are other factors you want to take into account. Like when you're going on vacation, do you want like luxury and live in luxury? Then maybe maybe that place wouldn't be the best fit for you. But then again, do you think 99% of the population want luxury, full hotel, like zero poverty and so on? I don't think so. I think people go traveling to have a good time, to have fun, to discover, to learn new things about the culture, the community, try new things, try new food, get to know people, have a good time. And based on those criteria, those metrics, I mean, you can have that in just about any country. And in Portugal, for example, you can definitely have that. So I don't know. It's a tricky topic because, like I said earlier, if you've never been to Portugal, for example, I don't want to hear someone saying that it's not a it's poor, it's dangerous. I don't want to hear them because they haven't been there. You've been reading articles, you've been watching, CNN or CBC in Canada, and you just made your opinion based on what legacy media has told you, and that is clearly a flaw, right? You want to, go on the ground, boots on the ground, learn yourself, right? Obviously, don't go in a war zone. I'm not saying to go literally in East Ukraine just to learn what's going on there. There's some extremes there, right? I'm not saying, there's some common sense there, but when we're talking about a peaceful country there that has a long history, I think there's opportunities there to have fun. So lots of people have been asking me about Portugal actually, and I love answering that. But next month I am going to Greece, so that's gonna be fun. It's still a little bit far. I mean, it's still a little bit over a month. So I still got to plan a few things. I am flying in and out from Athens, so lots of things I have to plan. We'll see how that goes. But of course, I'm looking forward for the food, for the people, for the culture. That's gonna be fun. Hoping to get a similar type of positive vibe that I had previously in Portugal. Obviously, it's gonna be a whole different experience. But I just love Europe, man. I love so far everything I've been seeing so far, experiencing. It's been great. So I want to show every country has poverty, even the UK and US. Yeah, man. It's UK, of course. I mean, I'd love to go to UK, man. I'd love to go to London. I've said it in a couple of videos, maybe, but I'd love to go to UK. I just never had the. It's crazy, man. It's like travel is one of those things that you want to do it, but there's so many things that preventing you from doing it. For numerous reasons, right? Resources, time constraints, where you are with life. And, when I was younger, when I was like in my late teens, early adulthood, like 20s, early 20s, I didn't really have the resources to be traveling, right? I can't just be traveling on a university budget. It doesn't make sense, right? I mean, you can make it work, but it's just, I'm already stressed with school. I don't even have a job, a full-time job. I want to get a full-time job. I want to make something out of myself. I have a place in this world, right? So it's a little bit hard to start traveling at that time. But then sort of mid-20s, I had the opportunity to travel for work, and just that interest always just peaked, So it's something that I'm going to keep doing for a number of years. And I think I don't know. This channel is not about travel for sure, but I think it's important. I've talked about it. I remember I made a video about how different hobbies in life can sort of bring a lot of knowledge here to different expertise you're having, right? In investing, right? Understanding different cultures, right? Understanding different communities, being patient, being proactive about things, right? Planning things up. These are things that you learn by traveling, for example, that you can sort of translate that in other fields in life, whether with that's through your relationships, whether that's in your community, whether that's at work, whether that's in your investment portfolios. I know it sounds like it's a stretch, but there is some value to that. And I think that is the ultimate form of education, right? Education is not just, getting a certificate or a degree, right? It's a lot more vast and beyond that. It goes beyond that, right? And there's so many different ways of getting it. We just don't say it's education in the formalized way that we say in North America, for example. But learning new communities, learning new people, stories, and trying new things out, that's a form of education that is obviously very valuable to me, and I think to a lot of people. So Paulo said, any opinion on Pfizer? I have 60% plus sell the hold. Yeah, Pfizer is a great company. Obviously, it's been a company for quite a long time. Even before the pandemic, I think they did an amazing job during the pandemic to come out at the top with Moderna. Moderna was the best one due to the whole pandemic mRNA technology, but Pfizer obviously did well during this ride. Plus 60% is pretty good, man. Like Paulo, I'll be honest with you, plus 60% pretty good. My opinion is to hold it because you're still in a market crash. I don't know. Like it could be going down further, or it could go up. Things could rebound in the next 6 to 8 months, and then you could go up from 60% all the way to 120%. Who knows? So it's up to you. But I would not sell it based on just the fact you're up 60%. There has to be, in my opinion, fundamental reasons why you want to sell it. Maybe there's another alternative that you want to put your money. I mean, you may sell it and then want to put on Crispr Therapeutics, for example, which wouldn't be a bad idea, right? I mean, it's all about the opportunity cost. That's definitely something. But again, we don't provide financial advice. It's just education information for free, guys. Paulo, have you considered taking your initial investment out and writing free shares? Yeah, that's a good strategy to save money. That's a really good strategy. People actually do that a lot more than people would like to think. A lot of people do that, which is a great strategy. Let's see, guys. We're going for an hour and 40 minutes. That's impressive. I did not think I was gonna go this long today. I thought I was gonna go more like maybe 45 minutes, an hour. It started a bit rough because I didn't even have my first cup of coffee. I was playing. I woke up a little bit late last night. I went to join my sisters who were in downtown Toronto. So I don't live I live in the city. Obviously, Some people think I live in downtown. If I say where I live to anybody that lives in Toronto, they would say that's downtown. It's not really downtown. It's more like uptown, right? So for me to go to uptown to downtown, all I do is just take a subway, which is really quick. Literally the subway is just underneath where I live. Literally, it's a straight line, right? So in 20 minutes you're there. And I was there in downtown, just meeting them, walking over the city. Toronto City is beautiful, guys. Like if obviously me being born and raised in Montreal. Montreal is a beautiful city. It's like the little Europe of North America. It has so much charm to it. But Toronto is like a different beast, guys. It's I mean I already mentioned this to you guys, but I moved to Toronto late 2021. The last part of 2020, last quarter of 2021. I moved, part of taking a new position at my day job. Obviously lived Montreal my life, and then I felt like I wanted to do something different, wanted to maybe live somewhere different. And I just felt like opportunities for where I wanted to go in my career. And I was starting this YouTube channel as well. And I said, you know what, I want to push it to the next level. And of course, I don't have kids. So there's obviously less anchors on mine. And I'm at a point with my age and my experience in life that maybe I can take those bold risks, and I have this experience that I can sort of navigate through these uncertain times. If I get in a rough spot, so there's some level of confidence there. And me and my partner, we took that decision to move to Toronto from Montreal. It was actually late 2020 during the midst of the pandemic. Actually, the pandemic had a lot to do with it, but I'll be honest with you, it sort of started before the pandemic. I think there's a calling for everybody, and I think everybody's sort of. I highly advise everybody to do what they think is best for them, to follow their passion, to be really pumped every single day, whether or not whatever you're doing in life. I think you want to be pumped, you want to be motivated, you want to be inspired. And I was at a point where I felt like I wasn't getting the fullest, and there was nothing wrong with Montreal. Like, the life there is beautiful. I mean, amazing people, culture is amazing. I mean, food is amazing. I mean, the place is amazing. It's a great place to grow up. It's a great place to be a young professional as well, to be a student. But for me personally, I felt like there were other opportunities. And when the opportunity came about in late 2020 to move to Toronto, during the midst of the pandemic, I took it. Obviously, it was delayed due to lockdowns and so on, but eventually I came here and been here for less than a year now, but it's been amazing. Love Toronto, man. It's one of those places that I highly recommend every professional in Canada to try it out if they really, really value their career to a point where they're willing to put some things in the back seat. Not for everybody, but definitely is and was for me. So enjoying my time here. And when my sister was here last night, like I said, we were walking downtown, all the big buildings, big lights. And I know a lot of people are not big bullish on cities, but that just injects a lot of energy in me, man. Cities, like that's the best part for me, man. It's different vibe, right? So I was planning to go over some Twitter responses over the latest news. I don't think I'm gonna do that. I think I spent enough time just reading some of your comments here. Like all of you guys, like Savvy, Chris, Paulo, all of you guys that participated today, Blair, Michael. Thank you so much, guys, for participating. Stephanie, Larry, of course. You guys, I see you got your comments in the comment section, and of course I see your names, and I really appreciate your likes, your subscription, of course, but also sharing the videos. I know a lot of you guys do your best to like promote these videos, so thank you so much, guys. It means a lot to me, and I think it means a lot to you guys too, right? I do this on a daily basis. I don't do this, I literally don't do this for money. If you guys know how much ad money is worth, you guys would be just like, laughing, right? Because if you really want to make money, you don't do YouTube videos, right? You don't do it. You really have to be passionate, and you have to build this community long term, and you have to interact with people, and you have to be respectful and humble, and it's something that I've cherished so far, right? This community has been amazing, right? Even during these tough times, it's been amazing, guys. Like it's mind-boggling. Like I've seen other communities, and things are it's very dark, very dark. Bitcoin community is very dark. Tesla community gets very dark. Like the thing with Tesla community is that you have all these guys like that bought Tesla very early on, and regardless what happens to Tesla, like even if Elon does something really, really bad, they're always going to find a way to spin it off in a good story, right? Which I see it, right? Look, I'm a Tesla bull. I'm still holding Tesla. I'm not going to sell it anytime soon. But I'm not going to like support things that are just dumb, right? And in CRISPR space, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing people that are very reasonable scientists, researchers, doctors, engineers, people. I'm not saying you have to be those to be qualified to have an opinion. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that this community has level-headed people that are not in it just for the money. They're truly here for the community and for advancing science. I think there's something noble about this. There's something extremely noble about this, and it is honest work. So really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Savvy Money, for hitting the like and subscribe button. Yeah, Paulo, Canadian stocks and cannabis been hit really hard. The whole industry been shaken up, but that happened well before the pandemic, right? In 2019, I think it was the peak, and then things started going really, really sideways. I remember it got my interest. HMMJ, I think the ETF was in 2017, early 2017, when it was released, the first ETF in Canada or something like that with cannabis. Obviously, it's a good thing I didn't invest at that time because that thing got hit really hard. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities outside of genomics, guys. You guys know this. I try to talk about it, but not too much. This channel is more geared towards CRISPR/genomics. I think a lot of you guys are really more interested in CRISPR and genomics, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of people covering this space. And if people are covering it, it may not necessarily resonate with you. I think that's the beautiful thing about YouTube and video on demand is you get to pick and choose. So yeah, I think I'll end this live stream like this, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, this has been an amazing experience. I got to interact with all of you guys that I just called out. Thank you so much, guys, for participating. Like I said, we'll try to do this a lot more often. I know I said at some point I will do them weekly. It's not gonna be weekly. That's really hard, but maybe bi-weekly, maybe monthly for sure. We'll try to do this, interact with you guys, get you guys participating, ask your thoughts, let you guys know like the price targets that Chris brought up. That's something I didn't know. Or the company that Savvy Money just talked about, the genetics company there, FLGT. So hey Matthew, thank you so much for joining, man. Thank you so much for learning as well. I learned as well, man. I learned about this data we saw, and just the preparation. I get to learn things and share that with you guys so that you guys have more time with your friends, your family, so you don't have to go through the weeds there. Trying to save you guys time and cost, and I'm doing this literally for free, and I'll keep doing this for free for you guys. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and just stream like this. Thank you everybody that joined in. Again, if you guys have any question, let me know in the comments below. If you guys want to watch our videos, of course, the whole video catalog, watch yesterday's video on Caribou. I think you guys will like it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you, and have a beautiful Sunday, guys, and a beautiful weekend. Thank you. Thank you, Paulo. Thank you, everybody.